Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome back in to another edition of Astros Recap. It is Sunday night, 10:58 p.m., May 22nd, 2022, of course. Another week in the books for the Astros. Decent week. Not great, not terrible, I guess. 4-3, winning, 3 of 4 over the weekend against the Rangers, but losing 2 of 3 to Boston at Fenway Park Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So, um, usually Astros, if you have a 7-game week, the goal, I feel like, for most days is or most weeks when you play a full slate of games is usually 5-2. It's usually taking 3 of 4 and then 2 of 3. Just winning series is usually the goal every time you go out there. So, Boston, a team that's kind of struggled for the majority of the year so far. They weren't a highly touted team. I mean, they were good last year. We played them in the ALCS, of course, but just this year, the record wasn't really there for them. I mean, if I just do a quick standings update here, and I think they took 3 or 4 over the weekend, so they sit at 19-22. Actually, they've won 5 in a row. So, I mean, you take away those 5 games, they were 14-22. So they're getting a little hot. Obviously, New York at 29-12 after losing 2 games today. It played a doubleheader, lost both. But yeah, I mean, Boston's still 10 back, and Toronto and Tampa Bay are still both ahead of them in that division. So that's part of the reason why I sort of didn't have Boston making the playoffs this year, is strictly for the reason that their division's super tough, and I think they overachieved last year, which is why I thought they'd sort of fall this year. But we're not here to talk about Boston. We just did lose 2 of 3 to them. So, talking points. What we stick to. Monday's game that they lost had a rain delay. We were down 1-0, tied at 1-1. We were down 2-1, tied at 2-2. We took the lead 3-2. Phil Maton, who has been a disappointment to this point of the season as the bullpen guy, that was fantastic in the postseason. Not very good. That difference between, which is like a lot of our pitchers, I feel like obviously our bullpen was so good in the playoffs last year, sort of led our team to the World Series, but there's been a few guys, that have not pitched as well. He made the trade for Maton last year at the deadline, came over, had an ERA in the 4s, and it didn't really get a whole lot better as he pitched for us in the regular season. Postseason came around, that's when he really stepped up. But he sort of resorted back to form, at least regular season-wise this year. ERAs, I believe, is in the 4 still. So, Maton's a guy I don't have a ton of faith in, I'd say, in close games. But he's a guy, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Stanek's a guy that's really pitched well this year. I would sort of elevate Stanek and bring down Maton a little bit. Comes to the back end of the bullpen. And guys you trust, obviously Montero, Neris, Presley. Presley's picked things up. But, the one run he gave up, and then Neris came in a tied game. It was tied 3-3. And he gave up a bit, he gave up the go-ahead runs. He gave up 3 runs. So Neris, first time all year, got hit around pretty good. And the guys in the bullpen you expect to, keep things where they're at, failed. Which was uncharacteristic, But again, Maton, ERA's in the 4s. So we'll maybe look at some stats here in a little bit, but I'm going to try to get through as much as I can. Tuesday they bounced back. The big second inning was the story of that game. 5 home runs. See if I can name them here. I have to think for a little bit here. Brantley hit 1, Jimmy Pena hit 1, Kyle Tucker hit 1, Yuli Gurriel hit 1, and who am I leaving out? Take a second here to think Think. Who? I just named 4 guys that hit a home run. Wasn't Castro. Wasn't Maldonado. I think it was Jordan Alvarez, who leads the team in home runs. So I go back to that, but they put up 9 runs in the second inning. So after that, I mean, I think Kyle Tucker hit a grand slam 2 innings later, won that game 13-4. That was all the runs they scored, but I mean that game was pretty much in hand from the second inning on. Let's see if I can pull this up here. So yeah, Alvarez, Tucker hit 2, Pena, Brantley, Gurriel home runs there. Urquidy, who also pitched today, is now 4-1 on the year, but the ERA is not great. Like it's still, 4.81 after this win. I feel like he's gotten a lot of run support in his games. So the ERA, it's not great, but his win-loss total is good. So just sometimes you get lucky, I guess. But Urquidy, out of all 5 guys in the rotation, has been sort of the one guy that, hasn't been that great. I mean, obviously Valdez, Odorizzi was pitching well. Now he's on the IL, so something we actually didn't touch on. He got hurt on Monday, and he was down in a heap, and it looked bad. So bad he got taken off on a stretcher. He wasn't like unconscious or anything, but he really couldn't put any weight on. I don't even remember what leg it was, the left or right, but all good news. Like people feared the Achilles, rupturing the Achilles. That's not the issue. He just tweaked some tendons, I guess, in that sort of area. So he'll be back at some point this year. So I don't know the exact diagnosis. It's a sprain, I believe. It's like an ankle sprain or something like that. So it's moderate, I believe. So we'll wait and see there. I think, but all accounts after the way things look, not terrible. Injuries is a part of the game. The Astros were sort of using a 6-man rotation for a while there, so they'll just go back to their 5-man. Javier will slide into the number 2 spot there in the rotation. Go so on and so forth. So yeah, that was good. Obviously, he got hurt. He wasn't going to come back in the game because we had the rain delay after that inning, so he wouldn't have come back anyway. But that was Maton and Artis that just didn't get it done after that. So I think Abreu maybe pitched an inning. Abreu's been better. Still no complaints. Last month or so of Brian Abreu's been better. Blake Taylor's still a mess. But you see a lot of Blake Taylor. I mean, he almost ruined today's game, but Presley came in and sort of saved the day a little bit. But that's one thing I didn't bring up, the Odorizzi injury. So, but Verlander obviously. Well, hold on. Did they skip? No. So they did some maneuvering when they brought Javier. Because Javier's now pitching. I'm trying to think, because it went from Odorizzi. It went from Odorizzi to Urquidy, then Urquidy to, God, who pitched the last game? I'm confused with the rotation, the way it's been sort of flip-flopped here. Who pitched on Wednesday? It was Luis Garcia. So Odorizzi, I think, I'm trying to think now. I have to back myself back up. But, Javier pitched yesterday. Oh, I hate when I get on these podcasts and I'm just all out of whack. But I'm trying to figure out here who pitched when. If I go back to last Sunday, it was Verlander. So it went from Verlander to Odorizzi to Urquidy to Garcia, and then back to Fromber. So Fromber and then Cowley. I'm all over the place. So it's Javier. This is how the pitching rotation is going to stack up. You're going to start with Valdez, Javier, Odorizzi, No, hold on. I'm already wrong. It's going to go Valdez. It's going to go Javier. It's going to go Verlander. Then it's going to go Odorizzi. Then it will go Urquidy, Garcia. That's how the rotation is shaken out. Which, I mean, it's not. How different is that? I mean, it's not. Odorizzi's out, so like Javier basically just is taking Odorizzi's spot, so it still should be, Valdez, Javier, Verlander, Urquidy, Garcia. That's the way the 5-man rotation should shake out. So if we stay on course with that, Garcia will start tomorrow. Then we'll go back to Valdez and Javier for the 3-game series coming up. All right. Yeah. That was, confusing. I think I don't know what went on. Anyway, moving on. So yeah, losing 2 of 3. Obviously, yeah. Urquidy battled through 5, got the win on Tuesday. He scored 13 runs. If you can go 5 innings, you're going to win there. Losing Wednesday 5-1 as Garcia gets the loss. Was not extremely good in this game. Only 4 innings, but gave up 3 earned runs, walked 3 guys, struck out 4. Abreu came in, 2 scoreless innings, 2 strikeouts. Stanek, Montero, they were all good. But the 5 runs that Garcia allowed, 3 of them were earned, but not a great start for him. So there's that. He'll get the nod tomorrow. Then over the weekend, not a whole lot of offense. Scored 5 runs on Thursday, winning 5-1. Shut out by Martin Perez on Friday. Winning a very ugly game on Saturday, and then today 5-2. Verlander was great again on Saturday. Didn't allow any runs in 6 innings. The only guy that allowed a run. Who was it that allowed the run here? It was Phil Maton. No, Hector Neris. So Maton actually gave a leadoff double, but was able to work around it, get out of it. Presley, these are games you just got to win. You play Texas or a team like that. Like we play the Guardians coming up. These are just games that the Astros should win because they're the better team. It's that simple. So they should win these games. At the very least, win the series. I mean, something the Astros had issues with all last year was beating bad teams. They couldn't really do it. They could beat the good teams, but bad teams, they really played down to the competition. So if they can clean that up this year, they should be in a very good spot. The A's, who got swept by the Rangers, not the A's, the Angels, got swept by the Rangers. I think they took 2 or 3 from Oakland over the weekend, but we have a 1.5 game lead. Yeah, LA did win today, but we still hold a 1.5 game lead. So 27-15. I'm satisfied with that record, with where they're at. Continue to try to win series games. Trying to think here if I can add anything. Just the one guy in the bullpen I really don't like is Blake Taylor. It's the only guy that comes in and consistently struggles. Walks hitters, gives up hits. He's just not good. It's that simple. It's like we deal with this every year. There's the lefty in the bullpen, if there is one. We had that one year, one of the last years with A.J. Hinch managing where we didn't even have a lefty in the bullpen. But think about all the lefties we've had. Blake Taylor's been bad. Oliver Perez has been bad. And Perez is just I'm trying to think. It's hard to come up with just at the top of my head, but I think every left-hander we've had, Brooks Raley. Could not stand Brooks Raley for the longest time here. I mean, I was stoked when I heard that Tampa Bay signed him to a contract, but Raley was god-awful. Taylor's fallen into that category. Taylor had the one fluky 2020, his rookie year, or at least his first year with the Astros. But last year he was bad. This year he's proving he's just as bad. Doesn't get better. I don't want to sit here and harp on that, but Blake Taylor's just a complete and total disaster. At least Brian Abreu's figured it out somewhat. I mean, but yeah, Blake Taylor. I can't consistently watch him pitch. I just can't do it. Luckily, Dusty hasn't used him in a whole lot of tight games, so AJ Hinch would have at this point. But yeah. But yeah, Blake Taylor he can't figure it out, and every time he goes out there, it doesn't really matter what the score is. He's not gonna. I mean, he almost blew the game today. He set the inning up to fail, and we got that double play at the end that ended it to get the win today. But yeah. So anyway, I'm trying to think. Everybody else, Maton, I'll sort of live with him. It's like I have to. Abreu's there, of course, and then the four guys I named. Seth Martinez, I believe, was brought up for the injured Jake Odorizzi. He actually hasn't been bad in the bullpen. I don't think he's given up a run all year. So haven't seen a whole lot from him to sort of say, I like this guy or this guy's good. But, I mean, I can't say anything bad about him. He hasn't given up any runs. Very small sample size, but he's just here until like Odorizzi. I don't know how long. There's no table that we've gotten with Odorizzi, so we're gonna wait and see, I guess. But yeah, there's that. Obviously, the trade. I think we touched on this last week. Mauricio Dubon for downgrading or optioning Nico Goodrum back to AAA, who was a disaster anyway. So haven't seen enough of Dubon. Obviously, he can play some outfield. They played him in center field a few games ago, so there's that. He can play all around the infield. Obviously, you got Leonidas Diaz who can do that. One guy who, I'm done glossing over is Alex Bregman, who's been a disappointment this year. Altuve's gotten it going since coming back. Tucker's fine. Alvarez is okay. Brantley's getting the average back up. I just had somebody else. Gurriel's gotten the average going a little bit, but Bregman, a guy that hits third in the order, sitting like 230, can't do that. I'd probably switch that up a little bit, but Bregman's got to get his stuff together. You can't hit 230 and bat third in the order. He had a few hits today, but still, Bregman needs to really get it going and start contributing. The thing about Bregman, I've never really been hard on Bregman. Like, I haven't been able to, really. I can usually find every player on this roster and name something I don't like about him. Bregman hasn't really been that guy. I've never really said anything bad about Bregman. But when you think about Bregman, he had one good year, really. 2019, where he was like second in MVP voting. Other than that year, he hasn't really done a whole lot. Last year, he was hurt for the majority of it. His rookie year, he got off to a horrendous start, but then he started getting it together. That was way back in 2016? Then he got hurt. The Astros didn't make the playoffs. He came back for the final few games. 2017, I guess you could argue, had a pretty good year, good playoffs. 2018, I think of 2019 as like the one year where Bregman was actually worth his $20 million he's making a year. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, he can turn things around. But I'm not gonna. Bregman needs to just pick it up offensively. I'll just say that. Leave it there. Obviously, you're really getting no production out of your catcher position. It's gonna be like that all year. Maldonado's a disaster. He actually had a few big hits, I guess. One that's off the top of my head was the big 3-run double in Thursday's game that sort of opened up the game. Gave us some breathing room in the ninth. But, Castro had a pretty good game just yesterday. So, I guess a little bit more production, but still not expecting a whole lot. And still, you're not going to get a whole lot there. And then other than that, just trying to go up and down the line here. Pretty much mentioned most. I'm coming up on almost 20 minutes. It's 11:18 now. I got to work early tomorrow, so I'll wrap things up there. Love to hear your comments, as always, in the section below. Response as warranted, as always. All that good stuff there is to do on YouTube. I'm David Artis. I will talk to you next Sunday night, most likely. If not, it will be Monday. It depends on what the schedule says. Haven't looked that far ahead. Next Monday's game is a 3 o'clock Memorial Day game, so we'll see there. Astros off day Thursday, then they'll hit the road West Coast for 6 games, Seattle, Oakland, and then finishing with Kansas City. So hopefully we'll do good, continue to win. Cleveland's definitely a series you at very least should take 2 or 3. Seattle hasn't played well, we'll go there. And then we'll go to Oakland. Oakland, I haven't played them yet, so that'll be the first time playing them into June. And then, as I'm looking at my phone over there on the right. Anyway, yes, 20 minutes. Try to keep these short and sweet. Didn't do a great job this week. But again, all the good stuff on YouTube, and I'll talk to you in a week.